Yanla Zant, we are so blessed to have you here with us today on the Rio. I want to start, dear, with something that we share. Which is that we are both attorneys by trade.
Very masculine and very intellectual, almost stripped and robbed of humanity. It really shows the dichotomy between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And for me, it just didn't feed my soul. And so I had to get out.
I feel that, and I do feel that I might have heard on a date or two, Ayanla, that we are not in a courtroom, Ebony. You can put the gavel down, and I do, I do feel it can spill over into the way I show up in my womanhood, which is really the center of this conversation today, Ayanla. We want to discuss masculine energy, feminine energy. I do want to start with kind of a news framing, which is that women's rights across the country, especially Black women's rights, they're under attack. Lots of laws are banning abortions. They are regulating what we can and cannot do with our bodies. What do you think happens for Black women when this type of siege is at play and we don't feel we have anyone to protect us?
Right. Well, the first thing I think we do is we go to anger. Anger without a clear ask. Doesn't make sense to be angry unless you got to ask. What is it that you're asking for? People can say anything in the world, but that do it, it doesn't mean that they get a right to affect you. But because so many of us are programmed and conditioned and educated to think like men, we respond like men. And when I mean men, I don't mean two-legged beasts. I mean in the masculine energy, and it becomes competitive, it becomes aggressive, it becomes againstness. And that's not who we are as women. It just isn't. And I think for Black women, particularly for us, the way that we've been programmed and conditioned and educated in the society to expect less, to accept less, to be angry and to complain, but to not really step into our authentic self, our authentic power as women, and create what we want, even if that's create the demand. Oh, no, not here, not today.
Okay, I hear you articulating, Ayanla, this masculine energy traits, the competitiveness, the assertiveness. Tell me how you would frame feminine traits. Aggressive. Okay.
Grace. Aggressive. Yeah, aggressive, not assertive. It's okay for a woman to be assertive. Grace, first of all. I think we've lost our grace.
True.
We move in such a harsh and hard way. Grace, compassion, nurturing, nourishing, elegance. How about majesty? How about divinity? How about holiness? This is not a language you hear coming out of most women's mouths, but they'll talk about being a boss, being a diva, being, in charge. And some of us are either not seated in our throne as queens, or we're in the throne and the crown is crooked. Meaning we're in the throne and we don't really know how to hold that place without the masculine aggressiveness and demanding and attachment. And it's killing us. It really is.
So in a recent interview with our dear friends over at the Breakfast Club, that went very viral for very good reason, you said that women are being trained to be men in skirts. I will acknowledge, I will say I was triggered. I was a hit dog, and I hollered to the entire production team to get you here today, because I actually think you're right. I think you're right. I do think that I'll just speak for myself vulnerably. When I think of a masculine posture and what I would expect a man to do in my life, two things come top of mind, and they are provide and they are protect. And when my lived experience, and I think I'm still relatively young, I guess, but I'm 40 in September. So, I've had some relationships. And I've yet to find a man who has shown, I mean, this includes even my father who was absent. I've yet to have a male energy that provided or protected me consistently ever.
Mhm.
So I think that I
Mhm.
have taken on the reins to protect and provide for myself. Because what I'm not going to
Mhm.
do, Ayanla, is be without. Baby, it's not
Be
happening.
without what?
So that
Be
would
without what?
be without
Be
protection, be without
okay.
protection, and be
Okay.
without the necessities of life.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I say that with an invitation, Ayanla, check me. Show me the error of my ways.
Hmm.
Tell me how I might be missing it, because I might be.
Well, I think we attract what we are. So if you've been attracting men who don't provide and protect, maybe you are always in your masculine and they don't think that they need to provide or protect. You're providing for yourself. You don't need a man. Most women, modern women, they say they have the attitude, they have the energy. I don't need a man. And for me, just listening to her, that's to me, that's what's coming across. Her being a lawyer, which is cool. I love lawyers, male and female, and I think it's great that she's a lawyer. But at the same time, even before she became a lawyer, I think what I'm sensing is that she was always in her masculine. And when you interact with men, they can pick up on that and they can feel from you that this chick don't need me. What am I going to provide for her? How am I going to protect her? Because she's more of a man than I am. So I think, you know, it's true that we attract what we are. So she's attracting someone in opposite to who she truly desires because she's attracting who she is, right? Let's continue.
Okay. I too am an alpha woman.
Hmm.
So I understand what that means. And I tell people all the time, I was a horrible mother. I was a horrible mother. I was a great father. And I was a horrible mother because I'd never been mothered. So I didn't know how to affirm, how to nurture, how to nourish, how to um, guide. I knew how to direct, how to demand, how to discipline, and like you said, provide and protect. Those are masculine
Hmm.
energies. And the distinction here is men build, women create.
Hmm.
So we know how to build. We know how to get to the external and get the work done and drive and push and do it, do it, do it. We don't know how to be still, create it, and allow it to come to us.
Hmm.
And I learned that when I lost everything. I learned how to create because I had already built and it all crumbled. The house, the husband, the job, the contracts, the professional career in the world, stripped of it
Wow.
all the attachments, the necessities of life, the creature comforts, until I was stripped down to the bare bone. And then I had to learn how not to build. Build is external, create is internal.
Hmm.
And we as women have the power to create and attract anything we desire.
Yes.
But we don't get still.
Hmm.
We won't shut up.
Hmm.
And we manage everything through fear, control, and survival.
Hmm.
As
Preach.
opposed to feeling,
Hmm.
knowing,
Hmm.
and blooming or flourishing. Complete different thing. But since we've never been trained, we haven't been taught. So we do it the way we were taught to do it, which is very masculine in
Yeah,
nature.
that's very true.
And very external. I feel that you are describing me to a T, Miss Iyanla. Now, is this why you are conducting a rites of passage program so that women, all of Black women in particular, can learn to create?
Women, so that we can learn our authentic power, that we can learn the distinction between a powerful woman and a woman in her power. There's a distinction, but there are skills and tools and practices and processes that we have to learn at every age. The 20s have a process, the 30s have a process, the 40s have a 50, 60. We each have a process. And if you don't learn your 20 process, you're going to be doing it at 50. If you don't complete your 30 process, you're going to be doing it at 60. And that means you'll be running on overdrive instead of seated in your power. Yes. And the secrets are there. They come from our culture. They come from our history, but no one has taught us. So me, as a descendant of Africans and Native Americans, I have a very lovely blend and mix. And I just, for a long time, I didn't do it because women in general, they don't want to hear. They think their way is right. And I'm crazy when I say sit down, shut up, and listen, and you can create what you want. They don't want to hear that.
Wow. That's
well,
deep.
I want to hear it. So tell me when the sign up is. I don't want to miss it. Let me know when you're taking registrations because I am curious. I had a very lovely single Black mother. And I'm going to get to the statistics on single Black motherhood and family life. But she was, by definition, more of a father figure in terms of providing and protecting. And I think that's very common. So according to the U.S. Census, Iyanla, 23% of households in the country are single parent households. And we know 80% of them are led by women. How does this affect the child? Both little girls, little boys, non-binary children. How does that frame their expectation
non-binary children
when the mother is in charge?
It all depends on what the mother or the woman demonstrates about being a woman. If she's demonstrating that it's hard and it's rough and nobody's helping me and I got to do this and you got to do it this way, then that's what the children are going to get. Exactly. If she's angry because she's alone, if she's desperate if she's not conscious, if she's not careful. I mean, when I look at the damage that I did to my children, not being clear about who I am as a feminine expression of the chief architect and creator of the universe. When I understand that I didn't know that and how to tap into that and the damage I did to my children who I love with all my heart. As soon as I discovered how off I was, I confessed it to them and asked them to watch me as I rebuilt who I was. And I'm still very alpha, but I'm in my throne and my crown is straight.
Okay. I'm looking forward to straightening my crown, Dr. Iyanla. Let me ask you this. Let's get to the logistics, though. We know that Black women are earning college degrees faster than anybody else. Many of us are doing like we're doing, Iyanla. We're getting those terminal degrees, those JDs, MD, PhDs. We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out-earning men.
They are
out-earning men in 22 of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it. When we talk, and I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build, when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if he owns the bus?
Wow.
If he owns it. If he owns the bus.
See, that's a problem.
Wow.
That's a problem.
Yep.
That's a problem. Okay. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society.
Yes, yes, and yes. Let's rewind that. Now, look at her facial expression, the way she batted her eyes when Iyanka asked her, would you date a bus driver? Let's rewind for a minute. Let's see if we get it here.
Can have our crowns, right? How we can create
Look
and
for
not
it.
build.
Pay
When
attention.
some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date a
If he
bus
owns
driver?
the bus,
Did you see that? Did you see her response? Would you date a bus driver? And she's like, is she asking me that question? And she bats her eyes like this. No, she didn't ask me that question. How am I going to respond? If he owns the bus. Wow. Okay, let's continue.
if he owns
No.
it, if he owns the bus,
See, that's a problem. That's a
It's
problem.
wrong.
That's a problem.
Okay.
Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women
Yes.
and who they are in this society.
Yes.
I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus,
Yes.
if he was a man of integrity,
Mm.
if he was good to his mama,
Yes.
if he treated me well, I
Mhm.
would date a bus driver.
Me too.
But we think that it's another human being's responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together.
Mhm.
I can build with a bus driver.
Yeah,
I'd have my little
absolutely.
stash over on the side in my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver. So I think some of the criteria that we look for in the reality of today keeps us unhappy,
Mhm.
keeps us angry, keeps us imbalance. And then when the men show up, we want to beat them up because they're not living up to our standards and
yeah.
criteria. And it's not working,
Sure.
beloved. It's just not working.
Nope.
So it's not that it's bad or wrong. It's obsolete. It's
Mm.
obsolete. We have to come up with a new way of being. I don't believe in carrying a man. A man has to do for himself. My son got his first job when he was 9.
Hmm.
9. Okay? Because you're a Black man, you will know how to take care of yourself. But I think the way we measure it, it's just obsolete.
Yeah.
I think that's a factual.
In addition to being obsolete, the way we measure men today is very detrimental. It demonizes men. When a woman reaches a certain standard of life, when she's making a certain income, like this classic person here, Ebony, she turned her nose up at average men. A man driving a bus. This man may be the greatest man on earth, but because he drives a bus, you don't know how much money this man has in his bank account. This man could have been saving for years. This man could have owned his own home. He could be set for life, but he just likes driving a bus. He likes interacting with people. He likes greeting people every day. It's something that gets him out of bed every day. Can you imagine a world without bus drivers? Or can you imagine a world without garbage collectors? Or what else can I think? Blue collar workers or people who build houses, construction workers, mail persons, or I don't know what they call these days, mailmen, if that's the right word of calling them. But the person who delivers your mail. Or let's see, the man who works at the grocery store, or any of these things, a male nurse, police officers who are men. The list goes on and on and on. Can you imagine a world where none of those roles existed? We had no one to fill them. Women are not going to fill them, at least not at the rate that men has filled those roles. So why is it that when a woman gets to a certain status in life, she turns up her nose at the man who doesn't make the same income or above? Or if he's not a CEO or entrepreneur or in the corporate boardroom, or he's not a doctor or a lawyer, the man is not good enough for her. Why? It has changed. Like Anka has said, the way we see, we treat, we engage men, it's obsolete and it's hurting men. But let's continue.
Analysis for whatever we want, expect, we're told we were going to get. We got to look at the numbers and what's available on the marketplace. So you're certainly not wrong in the analysis. And Yana, let's tell the truth and shame the devil. We know what you got in that prenup would never be little. It'll never be small. Child, that's a big old mound of assets. But that's okay. Let's spend a little more time just so we're really clear in this conversation, Dr. Van Zandt, difference between masculine energy and feminine energy, because I know that is not necessarily gender assigned, right? This is bigger than that. This is bigger than genitalia, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
We both
when we
have
talk about man is mind, woman is heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of us have guarded, broken, closeted hearts that we do everything from here. And here, as a woman that's been educated, that, like you said, has a degree, here will run out. Here will lie to you. This will never lie to you. But we've been taught not to trust this. We've been taught not to trust our knowing, our intuition. But a man can have a good idea and be brilliant, So we want to have good ideas. But for us, our power is in knowing. And it's in getting that intuition and moving on it. That our power is in what we feel, not necessarily emotion, but what we feel in our body. But so many of us are out of touch with our body. We'll give our body to somebody else before we really get in touch with it ourselves, because we're so busy doing till we don't know how to be. When I talk about feminine energy, again, I'm talking about the grace, the compassion, the humanity. I'm talking about mercy. I'm talking about silence, stillness. I'm talking about flow and movement. I'm talking about speaking from a place of intuitive knowing, love. I'm not, and that's not the masculine way.
No.
The masculine way is justice, structure, power, it's control. That's masculine. Feminine is dominion, not control. But most of us, many of us, I'm in recovery, are control freaks.
Me too.
So it's a whole nother way, a whole nother vibe. She raises her hand. There's a whole nother vibe that we can tap into, that we have to tap into, because the world is dying. This society, this system is coming down. And if we don't step into our power as women, we're going down with it. With the fall of the materialism and the collapse of the systems and the structures. How many women do you know with degrees could live outside and survive for 3 days?
None.
On the earth. How many do you know? I know I can. I know what to eat. I know where to find water.
Been there.
And I'm not saying we got to go back to the rustic times of the Wild Wild West, but I'm saying being in contact and in touch with the earth in a way that empowers us.
Yeah.
Take the pants off. Take the pants off. Let your hoo-ha get some air.
A new definition to breathe again, huh, Yana? Listen, it's funny you say that. I only can survive the wilderness, and I know for sure, and I actually was able to do it for about 12 days because I was on a CBS reality show called Beyond the Edge that challenged me, though. It challenged me to do those things in a way I'd never done before. Before you leave us, I need to ask you about how what you're saying for women to sit in their knowing, be quiet for a minute, shut up and tune into our bodies, tune into our innate knowing, as I hear you say, but how that works alongside feminism, because you've said you're not knocking feminism. You're not saying women cannot be police officers, firefighters, play football, or anything else. But you are saying that this hustle culture has given women a need to feel like we must be in competition with men. Is that
feminism for me? Feminism for me is a political or a social construct. And a woman empowerment as a woman is an internal experience that becomes an external expression. I can be solid in myself as a woman. I may not want to play football or carry a gun on my hip. I may not. But the distinction is I'm not looking to anything outside of myself for my power. Not. And I know that everything is coming to me to stretch, strengthen, grow me into my authentic and original being. And inside, I'm not guarded. I'm not harsh. I'm not brutal. I'm not violent. I'm not violent in my speaking. Women speaking today is so violent toward themselves and toward one another.
It's true.
So I'm not talking about a political construct, the women's movement.
Right.
I'm talking about the move of women for themselves, within themselves, so that they can be themselves in a completely different way.
It's internal. I hear you. I hear you. One thing before you leave us, I have to ask one thing about dating. The reality is there are more men right now, Iyanla, on dating apps and seeking partnership than there even are women, contrary to popular belief.
Yeah.
And a lot of men say that they're struggling, probably because of what you named earlier, probably because the expectations of many of the women are out of sync with what society is offering at this point in time, blah, 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 blah. How do women adjust our energy so that we are more successful when it comes to dating? If we're looking to date.
Do we just want to date, or do we want to be partners?
Exactly.
That's one
different.
thing. If you have in your consciousness you want to date, you can date forever because you're going to find something wrong with everybody. But if you want to be partnering, my question is, what is your vision? What is it that you see for yourself, within yourself, about being in partnership? And are you willing to be in partnership as a woman, or do you want to be a dude having a relationship with a man? And when I say a dude, I mean how you manage yourself, how you talk to men. We got to stop talking to these men like they're boys.
Yeah.
Even if he is driving the bus and he don't own it, or picking up trash, even if he did 7.5 to 15, that doesn't give us a right to use this divine instrument called a throat and a voice to
bring him down.
demean somebody. But you know what? If we demean each other, we're going to demean our men. And we have to remember as women that while we, you put a woman, she's got to feed the babies. So she's going to do what has to be done. We have a level of tenacity that many men haven't experienced, particularly men of color, because their genetic memory is that if they're too much, if they're too grown, if they're too big, if they're too smart, they're going to get hung. That's a genetic memory. So we have to understand that who they are as men, I don't want to say is fragile or delicate, but it's more sensitive to our mouth.
Yeah.
And our mouths are just, our mouths are out of order. I'm sorry, with each other, but definitely with men. It's, and I'm raising my hand. The only reason I can speak this is because I've lived it. And I knew how my life changed when I shifted from external masculine aggression to an internal knowing, where I get my guidance and my direction. It's just different. And most women think it won't work in the world. But look at me. And there are hundreds of me. I'm not alone.
Yeah.
There you go.
Indeed. Iyanla Vanzant, just eye-opening. When I hear you talk and I hear the themes and even the tone, it's very Maya Angelou to me. It's very it is very, which is I intended to be the high compliment that I believe you received it. And none of us are beyond growing and learning. So I deeply appreciate the exchange and the wisdom. Final words to leave us with today.
My sister women, my sister women, my sister women. Not how we are is not bad or wrong. What we've done is not bad or wrong. What we've been taught or learned wasn't bad or wrong. Let us just consider that there's a greater possibility and another way to be.
Amen.
Up for consideration. I'll put it under advisement, Dr. Vanzant.
Thank you. Well, I want to encourage you. Take it to heart. Take it to heart. Not put it under advisement. Take it to heart.
I know. I'm just kidding. No, I do feel the possibilities of what could this look like in a different way. I feel that on a spiritual level. So thank you. Thank you for challenging that for many of us.
All right. So you've seen it. You have seen it and hear from the horse's mouth. She wouldn't date a bus driver because she thinks she's better than the average man, the man who drives a bus or, probably takes out the garbage. Well, if we need to shift our mindset and the way that we view men in this modern society. The way that women, black and white and all colors, all races, treat men, especially in this modern society, is it's really toxic, it's demonizing, and we are emasculating men. We're emasculating real men. So if you're out there, you're trying to find a man, but yet you have your nose turned up. You think that you're too much because you have a degree, you're a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, you have 6 degrees and you're making more money than him. You think that you're above the man. But I want to invite you, ladies, who are in this position to consider that there are more men in the pool who are like that, who are good-hearted and kind-hearted, and who wants to settle down, who wants to build a relationship with a woman of purpose and a woman of character and a woman that knows that can bring, love and peace and happiness and joy to his life. There are a lot of men out there, but we need to change our attitude as men, as women, I should say. Moving on,